Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everyone. This is Cindy with another episode of Spectrum Perspectives. And today I have Susan May on with us. She's another autism speller mom. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks so much for having me.
So let's go back to the beginning. Let's start out with your pregnancy and birth. First of all, how many kids do you have?
I have 3 children, and Carter, our non-speaker, is our youngest.
He's the youngest, so he's not your first child. So, right. Okay. Because sometimes when we talk about development, first-time moms had no clue, but you had been through this already twice before. All right. So during your pregnancy, were there any kind of red flags when you had your ultrasound or anything? Did the doctors pick up on anything, give you any warnings?
So like I said, he was my third. I actually didn't have a single ultrasound with him. I was 37 years old. And I actually have a picture here because I know you put this on YouTube too. Here's my 3 babies. He's in the middle.
Cute.
And so my older children, I mean, now they look young to me in this picture, but they were 9.5 and 6.5 when he was born. So it's a rather large gap. So like you said, I had been around the block. There were no red flags. I was very healthy, probably the healthiest pregnancy I ever had because I was more health conscious by then. You know, my first pregnancy, I was 28, I was 37, did yoga through the pregnancy, had a midwife, had him at home. So really 0 interventions. Yeah, I was on to all the things by that point in my life and my motherhood journey. So
Okay, so you're a healthy person. All right. So you did all right, so no ultrasound. So you didn't go to an OB.
no, I actually started in a midwife practice that, had multiple midwives, and I actually wasn't happy with them. So I switched to a single midwife that did births at home.
Okay.
Pretty early in my pregnancy, and loved her, had a great
So you
experience.
did a home birth. You're my first one that did that.
Mhm.
Home birth. Were you in the water or no?
He's my only baby born in the water. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. I would have been so scared to do that, but yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then there were no complications when he was born.
No, APCAR scores were good. Yeah, the only like little blip was I tested positive for group B strep, and I didn't in the first 2. And as you know, well, you might know, even the midwife wanted me to like minimize the possibility of him becoming infected, which means like I don't want to get too graphic, but like I had to basically use a product in my vagina to clean it out. And I was not happy about doing that because I am crunchy, and I know that our babies are, when they come through the birth canal, they get inoculated with all of our good bacteria. And so to counteract that, I was then putting probiotics. And so that was the only that years later I would look back, because this is what we moms
So
do.
how far along were you when you had strep?
So group reset, like I don't think you even do the test till you're close, because the thing about that is that it comes and goes, and like most of us have it at some point. So they won't test you till you're close to delivery anyway. So I think I remember it being very stressful because it was within a week or 2. And I really don't like
I
antibiotics.
don't understand what you're talking about. I only know strep throat when you get the sore throat.
No, group B strep, it's like an infection. All pregnant women will get tested for this, by the way. And
Okay.
I haven't, like, I might be speaking, I don't want people to take my word for it because I haven't researched this in a long time. He's 9. But yeah, I just remember that process. And I could have declined. My midwife was very pro medical information and consent. But I was too nervous to like not do anything. So that's a very small thing. It's very minor, but it means that like my internal microbiome was altered, when he was born, which is a factor. He had a flu when he was very little, which is also a factor. And then there's other things that I could share with you too later on down the road. But yeah, very healthy kid, very minimally medicated, I would say, like one of the least medicated kids on the planet, probably. So yeah.
Okay, so then, all right, so after he was born, so you weren't in the hospital, you were home with him. Um, so that means he did not receive his inoculations that the babies are getting as soon as they're born.
Nope, nope, zero inoculations, zero jabs. Even the vitamin K, I chose to do drops instead of an injection. Um, and yeah, so that was one of the only things that we did for him was the vitamin K drops under his tongue. Other than that, slept with me, breastfed. Yeah, it was actually his post pregnancy was the best, my best. It
Did
was
you do
one.
this with your other two kids or no?
Okay, so actually have like a journey with that. My daughter was born in the hospital, but natural. I took a Bradley childbirth class and didn't have an epidural, nothing. It was all three of my births were positive. I loved giving birth. So then I progressed from hospital to a birth center with my middle, and I used hypnosis for childbirth. I used the program called Hypno Babies. After he was born, I became a Hypno Babies instructor and taught for 5 years. And actually, my last class was when I was pregnant with Carter. And so I got to go through it with my students, do Hypno Babies for childbirth. And I used hypnosis for him at home. So I went hospital, birth center, home.
Hmm. Interesting. So now, how was his development? Did he crawl on time, walk on time, all of that?
Yep. Yeah, he was I very distinctly remember one of a family friend like just looking at him and being like, that's the brightest baby I've ever seen. Like he was just, yeah, everything. Um, a joy to parent. He was actually pretty much potty trained by one because I did elimination communication too, which means you don't really use diapers with your baby. You hold him over a potty. I had him
Oh,
over a
wow.
potty. I had him on a potty within days and weeks. He was pooping and peeing on a potty. I remember when he was before his first birthday, like in the car, I thought, oh gosh, he has to go. And we were in a public place going to a beach in Florida and got him to a toilet and he pooped on the toilet before he was 1 year old. I was like, this is incredible. And then he regressed and now we're still working on toileting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you use cloth diapers or no
Yes.
diapers?
I
Yeah.
use cloth diapers with all three of my children, which I think has been a huge blessing actually for our family because it just makes you like it's just easier for me to deal with. Let's just say that. Like I've had to deal with poop in pee in receptacles that I have to then take care of. I have to wash them. And a lot of people I think are disposable culture, like people just want to just not deal with it. And autism families don't get that option. We have to deal with it usually. So yeah.
Okay, so when did the autism diagnosis come about?
Okay, so we really took our time. He's our third child. We were already doing a lot of things differently with our children, as I think you've kind of guessed by our births. But I also homeschooled my older two children, and I didn't just homeschool them. I really embraced this philosophy of unschooling, which is very
So
different.
wait, so hold on. Did you inoculate your other two kids?
So my daughter
Mhm.
she's my oldest,
Yeah.
and I believe she's had the most adverse effects. When I went back and looked, she was given the jabs on time, like through her third birthday, and she had more in less than 3 years because it was really 2.5, and then there was a break. Well, by her third birthday, I was researching because I was pregnant with my second, and that's when I started asking questions. And she had awful swollen tonsils. Like she had the ear, nose, throat stuff, like the typical, like
Mhm.
we had to get tubes in when she was 6 or 7 because she actually couldn't hear me. Like we went
Yeah.
to the pediatrician and he's like, say something. She couldn't hear. Her ears were so clogged. She did not want to get her tonsils out. And I'm so grateful to that little girl because we listened to her. And so we didn't remove them, and she's much healthier now. It's been a long road to health for her, but she's definitely like our sickliest, like as far as like catching things, can't get rid of them, like kick them. And then our middle son, I still regret. Like I was researching at the end of my pregnancy, which is a terrible time to research, and he did get a couple jabs, including like they pretty much bullied me at his 2-month appointment with like dead baby card and like all these things, and said, well, let's just give him a couple. Well, later I looked, well, a couple meant an oral one and then a 5-in-1. That's what a couple meant. And he had the scream, he had the like, up until that point he had been completely calm, happy, breastfeeding well, and he was inconsolable. And I had done enough research that it really freaked me out. I was so scared because he was screaming and I couldn't, he's my second baby too, and he had been doing so well. And so from that point forward, I was smart enough to say, well, I'm still researching. I need more time. I need more time. Stayed with that practice for a year while they bullied me and finally realized, wait, maybe I should be going to a place where they don't align with my beliefs. But, you know, it's a learning progress. It's a learning process and it takes time. So that was kind of my journey with my first two. And so by the time Carter came along, we were well on the path and didn't even think about doing any jabs or inoculations. So.
Mm-hmm. Just because I'm wondering if that's why you're homeschooling, because the public schools,
Oh,
demand that you have all of them.
I actually started researching homeschooling when my daughter was 18 months. So I was still on
You're going to do that anyway.
I was still on the medical train at that point. They all these things just kind of they come together with time. But I was sold on homeschooling because I researched it obsessively. My husband would be like, "Get off! You've already read this." Like, and I was just obsessed with it. And then it became a matter of like, okay, I need my husband to be on board with this too. We're a team. It can't be like my decision. And so by the time she was 5, because I started when she was 18 months. So that's what, 3.5 years of researching. And it was just obvious with her personality that it was best for her to stay with me. We were so close. You know, my kids didn't go to any daycare. They didn't go to any preschool, no school. My daughter is in college now, and she didn't step foot in public school for her entire like elementary to high school career. So
Wow. So that was a big jump for her to go to college, no? And she did okay?
yeah. Yeah, she's doing great. She loves it. It's close by, but she's living on campus, and it's just been the last 2 to 3 weeks, and it's been really a joy to watch her adjust and really enjoying it.
Yeah, so the big complaint that people always say is, well, what about the socialization? They're not getting socialization, but I know that there's homeschool associations where people get together and they do all kinds of things with their
It's
kids.
it's like really a bogus argument because, and any homeschooler can take apart that argument within a matter of seconds, because schools are terrible for socialization for lots of reasons. They're with the same age peers put into a room with one adult who cannot monitor everything that goes on. Not that kids should be monitored. That's not what I believe, but it becomes like a breeding ground for bullying and bad behavior and bad social behavior. And also, I don't know if you ever had a teacher, but I had many teachers say to me, "We're not here to socialize." So it's really, it's a funny argument people like to make. If there are families that homeschool that overprotect their children and like do weird things with them, like, like people are always worried that kids are going to be weird or have like bad beliefs because their parents are like bringing them into these bad beliefs. Those are minority cases, and that's not really what happens. Most families are normal people. Like, it's become so much more widespread homeschooling and want, the same things for their children. In addition to, they don't want their children kind of indoctrinated with a lot of stuff that goes on in schools, and they want their kids to be independent. They want them to be free thinkers, critical thinkers, which is what I'm seeing with my kids. So I don't regret our choice to homeschool at all. A lot of the reasons I chose to homeschool have evolved over time. I did it at the time because it was best for my babies. It was best for them. And I was a school teacher. I didn't tell you that yet. I was a certified school teacher, taught for 4 years. And I always said, if I wanted to be my kid's teacher, I would send them to school because that's super stressful. And actually, we'll segue when we talk about my homeschooling community. I've learned a lot through being a teacher, through homeschooling my neurotypical kids, and now homeschooling Carter. There's a different way that's a lot easier for parents that they need to see, and it's better for their children.
So, all right. So the difference is they were how old when Carter was born? They were 6 and
9. Yeah.
6 and 9. Okay. So they are well into school at that point, and now you're taking care of a baby, but then he gets diagnosed with autism. Wait, which we didn't get to how you
Sorry.
found out.
Yeah.
But so I'm just, and the reason that I'm asking is because I know that kids with autism that are very high energy, they suck up all of your time, and you have to constantly give them so much attention. How are you homeschooling the other 2 kids while you're running around after Carter? But we'll get to that, but let's back up. How'd you find out about the autism?
Okay, so Carter did develop normally, like through 21 months. He had words, he would say all of our I very distinctly remember him coming in saying, Mama, Dada, Merful, Jerry. And then he tagged on the dog's name, Yoshi, no was a big one. No, 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 the typical toddler. And then by his second his 2-year appointment, we had noticed he wasn't talking as much. And I was like, I had thought he was going to talk much earlier than my middle son. I was like, wow, he's talking so much. And so our pediatrician at the time suggested we look into it, get him start looking into testing. And we chose
And you
not.
found a pediatrician that doesn't push jabs.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I have parents of babies that are asking me about this, and they're like, where do you go? And I'm like, I don't really know.
They're everywhere. I mean, that's another part of my family story. We've lived a lot of different places. We've lived in the Northern Virginia, DC area for a large portion of my older kids' life, for about 10 years. We've lived in Central Virginia, we've lived in Florida, and now we're in Eastern Tennessee. And you can find someone everywhere you go. The best thing you can do is hook up with local people. There's always Facebook groups that are called Crunchy or some kind of form of that. And those people are the ones that will tell you. I do think it's becoming more common. Like here, I found a practice that the name of it was just very obvious. It's like Integrated Health, and I went on their website and it's just very clear that they're alternative. It was a doctor that started off as an MD and now he's not about mainstream medicine at all. He wants to help people really live healthy lifestyles, which is perfect. And so I think people can find it. You have to reach out to people in your community. You have to do a little bit of searching, but in my experience, you can find doctors that are supportive.
Right. And that's what I want for the viewers to answer that question for them. Here's how you find it. This is what you look for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. So he said, let's look into this.
Yes, but we didn't. So again, he's our third baby. I had a very distinct parenting style and philosophy at this point. And my mantra for probably almost 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years, was he's happy, he's healthy. He's happy, he's healthy. And my husband and I it wasn't that we were in denial. It wasn't that we didn't see differences. It was that we were weighing out the trauma and the stress of going through this process and the benefits. And I was keeping him very safe. I was able to keep him safe. I was able to meet his needs and my other children. And so for a long time, we just felt like, okay. And I also had done a lot of research into autism prior to Carter. And so I knew that the experts didn't have the answers. I think this is another big difference for me, is that I was skeptical that they could help me. I was already very skeptical of experts generally. And so by the time he was about 3.5, we were like, okay, we do need some help. We need some more support. And so for a very brief stint, we worked with a speech therapist. And at around the same time, we went through the school district where we lived and did some testing. It wasn't like an official medical diagnosis, but we did the testing. And sure enough, it came back, oh, he tests high on all the autism, whatever indicators. And for our family, for me and my husband, we actually weren't really devastated or upset. We had already been saying for a couple of years, oh, if we tested him, he would be on the spectrum. We had been saying that. And so it was really just confirmation. Oh, we're right. He's showing developmental differences. And so that was part of our story. And so we literally were starting speech therapy. We were about to start a program for autistic children that was ABA based. And I had a lot of hesitation because I had already researched. I already knew that there was a lot of controversy about the therapies, but I met with the people. They were kind. I saw the 2 young women that would be working with him. They were loving. And I was reassured that, we could try it. And so, but literally on the day he was set to start, lockdown started. It was 2020. And so I don't think I could have gotten a stronger sign to, okay, well, let's just hold off. Let's hold off. And so Carter did not receive many interventions at all until he was over 5 years old, which is probably, it's both been a blessing and a regret because, we get drilled into our head as a society, early intervention. And so I have a little bit of mom guilt for that, but I also know that early intervention doesn't actually hasn't historically made a huge difference for a high percentage. I will just say, like, there are those stories where you're like, oh my gosh, like they were like cured, or they like, you know, had these miraculous turnarounds. But there's just as many or more stories of families that tried everything, did everything early and still struggle. And so that's something I really love to encourage moms with, is letting go of mom guilt. Like, we're all doing the best we can at the time with the information we have. And so we were actually really lucky, because when we finally really got started, I had learned about apraxia. So I knew about it, which is unusual, I think. So
when was this now? What year was this?
okay, so lockdowns began in 2020. We moved from Central Virginia to Florida, January of 2021. And a very dear friend of mine sent me a link. You have to order this book. And so I pre-ordered this book.
Yeah. Underestimated. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so it came to my doorstep. Underestimated by JB Handley and Jamie Handley came to my door on the day that it was published. And I'm pretty sure I read it that day. If not, it was the next day. I read it in one day. I remember I had a box of Kleenex, wept through the entire thing. And so I looked it up. It was published in March of 2021. By October, since we were in Florida, we had an appointment with Dana Johnson at the Spellers Center in Tampa. And so we had gotten onto the Florida like program for scholarship and things like that. So we were timing.
Wait, is that how you learned about apraxia, when you read the book, or you knew about it ahead of time?
I did not know about it. I didn't know about it. So he celebrated his 5th birthday in February, and I read this book the next month. So he was just 5 years old. So we had just been on, you know, speech therapy, looking into OT, pretty typical, normal stuff, but we knew we needed help. We knew we needed more support. And so, yeah, we're very lucky that we learned about this when we did.
Yeah, you are, because he was young. I mean, so far I've been interviewing people that their kids are teens and in their 20s, you know, just finding out about this. And you're finding out about it right in the beginning of your journey, which is great. Hoping that more parents of the young ones, I'm hoping that's why I keep talking about it, because I want the parents to all know about it, because so far everybody found out about it because they either read that book or they watched the Spellers movie. So, which is done by the same, you know, by the author. So, I mean, and that was right, 2021. So it's only been 4 years.
Yeah, the book was 2021, and then the documentary came
out in 2023, I think.
2 years later. Yeah, because by that point I was all on board, and I was publishing all the posts about the documentary. I actually I hosted an online screening myself and had like 20 some people come watch it and everything. Yeah. So I mean, there's momentum building for sure, and we needed to keep building and building and building. And the upsetting thing is that parents don't know about it, and it's not talked about in mainstream. Doctors don't recommend it. That's not done in schools. So the only way that you can find out about it is if they're like you and they do research, or somebody, you know, reaches out to them. You know, like I can't believe I still have friends on Facebook within the autism space that don't know anything about it. And I keep trying to tell them, watch the movie, watch the movie, watch the movie. And they're like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is going to change your life. I know.
They're like, yeah, well, once I'm done with this or that, I'm like, no, put it on tonight. It's on YouTube. It's free. Just watch it. It's crazy.
I know. It's frustrating, but I think one thing I've learned, like being someone that's always been like on the fringe, is that beliefs, you can't change someone's beliefs. If they have to do it. And like these movements, they just take time. Like that's, you know, and it's frustrating as an individual, but we can only do what we can do. And, you know, all these spellers like that you're having on they all, like you said, they all want to be advocates, you know, and the word is spreading. It is definitely spreading. A lot of it depends on the caregivers, like our kids. And that's like one of my core messages is this population is, if it's not the only, it's one of very few that has to count on someone else to get to, so that they can get to a place of communication and autonomy. If they don't have at least one person that believes in them, either a parent or a caregiver that's willing to like do this practice with them on the boards or take them to a practitioner, they're stuck. They can't, like any other, think about it, like any other like population that struggles, whether it's addiction or, you know, whatever you can think of, that person has choices that they are in control of, right? Our population doesn't have that privilege. And so that's why it's so important to support these caregivers and get the word to them. Like, yes, it's important for our kids to have hope and to know that help is coming, but they need to know help is coming, right? They need the people to get there. And so it's really, really important that people keep sharing, keep advocating. It really is. It feels painstakingly slow when it feels like it's parent to parent, but it's growing. There's no doubt about that. And it's very hopeful.
It just feels to me very much like evangelism. It feels like you're trying to tell people, listen, listen to me. I have the answer to all of your life's problems, and they don't want to hear it. And they're like, yeah, whatever. That's good for you, but whatever.
Right.
I mean, that's what it feels like to me. And even just trying to convince people, even in my own family, it's like they won't listen to me. And like, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating. And you're absolutely right. There are similarities. And I think what helps me give people grace and stay in a calm state myself, because I hear you talking about it with all the people. It's very important for us to stay calm for our kids, is to recognize, I mean, I know on my own journey, there's only so many things a human mind and heart can focus on at a time. Like literally everyone's on their own journey and like has their own challenges, has their own, like if a family is struggling with divorce or if they have other things going on, then this isn't going to be like their top priority. And as frustrating as that is for us, is we just need to stay steady. We just need to keep, just like you're talking about with evangelizing, like, you just have to be so convinced and you just have to keep going and know that you're touching people and you're planting seeds, right? I know so many people love that analogy, planting seeds, because you don't know when it's going to sprout, right? Like it might go dormant for years and then come back. And so you just have to keep going. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people just feel like, well, that's good for you, but it won't work for me. It's the same thing with religion, right? It's like, that's good for you. I don't need that, whatever. But in this space, the parents are like, yeah, well, your kid is not as severe as mine. I don't think it's going to work for me. That's really the mindset. It's like, no, you don't understand how far gone my kid is. It's like, no.
Yeah.
That's the story that Honey had talking to JB Hanley when she told him first about spelling. And he's like, yeah, that might work for your kid, but my kid, no. And she's like, no. She's like, here's my son when he's not spelling. He's just like Jamie.
Looks just the same. Yeah. And I mean, another great example I'm sure is Houston and Katie Asher. The Book of Heaven. Like there's not many cases more severe than that if you read that book. And Houston's doing it, so people, that is just not a good excuse. And it's hard. It is hard because parents have been beaten down by the system and by like the messaging. Like so many parents have been told repeatedly that their child is cognitively disabled, that they're functioning at like whatever IQ level, 2 years old, 3 years old, 7 years old. And that, again, I think this was a huge benefit to my family that I had already unplugged from mainstream medicine and from experts. No one ever told me that. And I never thought that about Carter. And that's a huge hurdle that I didn't have to face, that I didn't have to overcome. And so that's really the first hurdle for most families, is like to even have some kind of hope, even if they can't believe it.
It's a shift in a mindset.
It is 100%.
Yeah. All right. So you took him to Dana for Speller's Method, which I interviewed Dana Johnson, if anybody wants to go back and listen, because she's excellent at explaining apraxia. And he started with spelling, and then you were doing it with him at home as well.
Well, so actually, when we we didn't start right off the bat with spelling, because my little Carter was pretty feral. He was pretty wild because he there's pros and cons to the choices we made and how we lived. Like he had to sit at a chair in like a daycare or a preschool. And so he had freedom. My kids grew up with tons of freedom. And so when we took her, I was like, what is she going to do with him? Like, he's not going to sit and spell, And sure enough, we were right. Now I understand that practitioners have to, like, the whole presuming competence. I didn't know about all this stuff then, you know, and so she had to start there. She had to presume that Carter would want to do it and that he'd be able to sit and point. Like, you have to start somewhere. And so when we took him in October, she tried, he became, you know, he's 5 years old. He became extremely dysregulated, even just being asked. His body is very fast. It wants to move all the time. And there's a lot of kids like him. Like, it's very hard for him to sit still.
Yeah.
And so
did they diagnose him with ADHD too?
No, I mean, again, no. We don't really have diagnosis.
You know, so you don't have any official, yeah. No, I'm just saying it just that just sounds like he would get that, you know, with the not sitting still. That's just something else they'll just throw a label on.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we really started going to work because it was almost a 2-hour drive. We would go once a month, and we worked actually with one of the other therapists there on purposeful motor. And we basically did these obstacle courses every time, where she would change it up a little bit. We're asking his body to do something. They incorporated the letters by putting like a word, one letter on each piece of paper. He would have to grab it. That's purposeful motor. He would carry it through the obstacle course and then tape it on the wall. We did that for almost 18 months. Really,
okay, that's the first I've heard of that. Okay.
Oh yeah. And then we would,
well, because she's an OT, so
yeah. And so, you know, there's different philosophies, you know. I actually, like RPM, you know, there's RPM, there's S2C, there's Speller's method. So for our family, I think Dana read us correctly. Like, we weren't ready to like force him to sit in a chair. He needed a lot more like foundation.
Sure. Yeah. He's also very young too.
I had
like a 22-year-old, they get tired as they get older, and 22-year-old is going to sit.
They become more regulated. You know, he's already becoming more regulated, which you probably saw in the videos I sent you. And so we worked on that. And so we started right around the time the movie came out, which was like super exciting to be doing that, you know. And the reason we started is actually kind of funny. We were moving again, and I had scholarship money in Florida that I wanted to use. And so, and my husband had been saying, when are we going to start spelling? When are we going to start spelling?
Where'd you get a scholarship from?
In Florida, it was called the Gardner Scholarship at the time. People in Florida know what it is. I can't remember the name of it now. But it's at the time, I think that scholarship was for like parents that don't put their kids in public school. And so since I homeschooled, we qualified for that. And I used it for spelling therapy.
For kids with special needs, or for any kid?
Special needs.
Okay.
It could be health. It wasn't all autism. Now we have in Tennessee, we have a Katie Beckett waiver, which is also special needs, and many families it's autism. So
it's for special needs, but kids that are homeschooled?
No, that one is not homeschooling.
Oh, it's just for special needs, just in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's an excellent
program. And you can get a scholarship for any kind of program that you need?
So for the Katie Beckett here, we qualify for it, and it's $10,000 a year. And it's pretty flexible. Like, I can use it for his spelling therapy. I can use it for OT. I can use it for medical things. Like, we had blood work done.
Do you have to tell them what you're going to use it for?
Yes. Like, we have to get reimbursed. So like, I have to have receipts. I have to have letters from our doctor that.
So, like, but they're okay with you using it for spelling. Like, it's not like oh, well, we don't cover that.
Nope. I use it for, yep. Okay. As long as you have a letter, what they call a letter of medical necessity. Also, our practitioner is technically an OT, and I think that they would probably approve it anyway. OT is a pretty normal. I'm kind of
because this is very interesting, because you're the first person I've heard talk about this. And one of the issues with all these spelling methods is they're not free and they're not covered under insurance. Right. So a lot of people want to know, how am I supposed to pay for this?
Right.
So how did you find out about this scholarship?
So when I lived in Florida, and this is where community is so important, like in-person community. When I lived in Florida, a friend said to me, hey, you have to apply for this scholarship. Now, her son wasn't autistic. He had a different medical issue. But I really encourage people to start getting on, like, whether it's a Facebook group, or if you're homeschooling, it's a homeschool group, because that's how I met this woman. Because I do think there are a lot more opportunities that people know about. And I didn't know about any opportunities when we lived in Virginia. Like, I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to have to pay for all this out of pocket. And then we moved to 2 different states. And in both states, I was able to find, really, really good funding that we're using, really how we want to use it. And so I don't know. It's funny because I'll see these threads pop up on Facebook. Where's the best state to live if you have an autistic child? And like people inevitably are like California, New York, and then people will bash states like Tennessee. And I'm like, hey guys, I got $10,000 to spend how I want. Like there's other states where it's like, oh, you can only use it for school, or you can.
Yeah, but they're looking for public schools, probably people that are asking questions.
It's just interesting. It's interesting how people decide what's valuable, And I'm like, I don't think Tennessee's the worst at all. Like to me, it's like one of the best. I'm like, this is fantastic. So I feel like I got off track there. I don't know what question we were answering, Cindy.
We were talking about spelling and that you went down to see Dana.
Oh yeah, so we hadn't started.
Yes, but I'm very interested in though how you were paying for it. So that's good to know. All right, but that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
he would take the piece of paper and he'd run through a course and then he'd stick the paper when he was done. So Dana's an OT, so she's using a lot of OT and gross motor and all that.
Yes. And we weren't working with her, like Dana's in high demand. Like we were working with one of her.
Well, I was going to say, you were lucky you caught her right away as soon as the movie came out, because don't anybody else think that you're going to get her now, because
you got
1,000 people ahead of you now.
We are very lucky. We love Dana a lot, and I can still, get in touch with her. And if we go to Florida, we can get into the clinic and get a session with her if I visit my mom in Florida, things like that. And so we're very fortunate. Anyways, we officially started it's been about 2.5 years now with the spelling. And so I was telling you, the reason we started wasn't really that I was like, oh, he's ready. It's because I'm like, oh, I have the scholarship money and use it. And then we started, I was like, oh, he is ready. And if you saw the videos, you wouldn't think, oh, this kid's ready. Like he's all over the place, but he just blew me away very quickly with the progress and like his ability and his desire. And so
he was. You have some videos on YouTube, and we'll put are they private?
Well, those are private.
They're private. Okay.
Yeah. I don't.
So you sent them to me, and you're correct. He doesn't sit still. He's moving, and you're chasing him all over the place, trying to get him to just, tap one letter. And he's laughing. I mean, it was like a game. He was cracking up, laughing like, hey, this is funny. Let me get mom to chase me around, I was like, how is she getting him to spell anything? This kid is not sitting still. So, which I thought was very interesting too, because any of the videos that I've seen is of the older ones sitting in a chair and paying attention and doing, what they're being asked to do. So this is completely different what you showed me. I'm like, aha. So this is what it's really like in the beginning, and with a little one, that he does not sit still. And this is another reason why I wanted to talk to you, so other parents can hear this and understand this. It's different for all of them. Sometimes it takes a long time. Age, I think, is a factor too, and they're all different. So, okay. So he's all over the place. You're chasing him down. So you're in Tennessee now, so you're not going to Dana anymore. You found a different practitioner in Tennessee then, I guess.
Yeah, we have another amazing practitioner. And actually Dana was like, oh, you're lucky you're going there. She actually interned under Dana.
Okay.
She is incredible. She's an incredible practitioner. So we've been very fortunate in that aspect too. We still have to drive 2 hours. So we still only go in person once a month, because it's a day. It's like a 6-hour day by the time we drive there, do our session. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it to just have this person that you're touching base with, to keep you accountable, to keep you excited, like that, or if you are experiencing setbacks or hurdles. I usually Zoom with her once a month too. So I get to see her twice a month, just me. I Zoom with her and kind of brainstorm. In the beginning, I would send her videos of us spelling. I haven't done that as much lately because we're just in a good groove and we spell, but like I'll bring to her other things, like life things, like, hey, I need help with this particular challenge, like Carter not getting out of the car or something, and she helps me brainstorm things that I wouldn't think of, because she understands apraxia so well. She's worked with so many kids. So I really think having someone in your life that really gets what's going on is so beneficial. And I know the money is an issue for a lot of families, but I just have to say for our family, it's absolutely the right choice to be building this team of people that understand Carter and that are like cheering us on. It keeps me motivated.
So all right. So you moved to Tennessee. He was how old then?
Okay, so we moved here 2 years ago. So he was 7.
Okay.
We moved very quickly after we started spelling to within months. And actually, another wrinkle to our story is my dad died within days or weeks of us making this move, which was obviously very stressful and sad for our family. And so like we had literally just started spelling, and then we had like a summer of like not spelling, and then we got back into it with a new practitioner. So
So
yeah.
how did you learn how to do it? Did they teach you what to do?
So one of the ways I used my scholarship money is I took this CRP, Communication Regulation Partner course through the Spellers method.
Okay.
And I've actually taken courses through them and through iAsk that support parents.
Okay.
And now I'm taking one through Autistically Inclined. So there are lots of really good quality programs that support parents.
Yeah, iAsk is the website for Spelling to Communicate, which I know that they do a course for parents, specifically
Yeah,
for parents.
I took that one also.
So a CRP is a communication regulation partner. Is that the same thing as what the parent would be? No, it's not necessarily.
Yes, we are. I mean, I am one of his.
Well, you are his main,
Mhm.
practitioner,
Mhm.
right? But not everybody has that. Some people hire somebody else to do it, but
That's true. But like if you are a parent who wants to spell with your child, then those courses are the spellers method one was definitely more focused on actually spelling with Carter. The I Ask one covered a lot of different broad topics, which were really great too. Like I can't even remember now, but like they just covered a lot of foundational things. They both supported parents in spelling with their children. Like lots of times, the same thing. They'll have you send videos and give you feedback, which is great. So I literally just started doing it with him around that time, and yeah, it's like a combination of being
so that's
self-taught.
another thing too. Like I see somebody that I want to get them on the show. They're an influencer, I guess you would say, and they always are posting videos of their son, and he goes to spelling, but he goes once a week. But I never ever see the mom doing it with him. It's only with the practitioner once a week. And I keep trying to tell her, no, you have to do this too. You have to work on this every day with him. And I don't know why she's not. She doesn't talk about that. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but that's something that I want to get out there to the parents too. It's like, no, you have to,
Absolutely.
but I know a lot of parents have issues where their kids will not spell with them. They will spell with the practitioner and they will not spell with their parent. And that has a lot to do with regulation, right? You have to keep telling the parents, no, you have to be regulated. And if they're not, then the kids can't spell around them. A lot of parents get too excited and they can't wait to hear what they have to say, or they're just nervous. They're like, I'm not good at this. I'm not going to be able to do it. There's a whole lot going on internally, and these kids are so sensitive to your emotions and what's going on inside you that they pick up on it, and then it's exaggerated 10 times, I think. And so the
Yep.
practitioners, I guess, know how to keep themselves very calm and very regulated.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on with all of that. I think one thing that made a huge impression on me early on is I heard Dawn Marie Gavin, who is, Dana's partner with the Spellers Method. She's out in California. I heard her talk about how she actually saw more progress in parents and families that were farther away and could not come see her every week, because those are the families that did spell with their child at home. And that always made me feel so good, because I'm like, I don't live close enough to go weekly. I mean, I could, but it would just be such a strain on our family. It's such a draining day. And so I use that as motivation to be like, okay, I'm going to go regularly, but I'm committing to practicing with Carter at home, because ultimately we want to communicate with him, right? Like we want not just me, like my husband to be able to do it, and my daughter. Now they do most, especially Spell to Communicate. We're working with a Spell to Communicate practitioner right now. She definitely has encouraged us to focus just on me and Carter and not introduce more people while we're in this acquisition phase. He's not open yet, and it's just too many variables, right? To be working with another person, their emotions, as you point out, board placement, so many things, right? Um, I think a lot of people just see like, oh, don't you just drop the board in front of them and it looks simple, it looks easy, and there's just a lot that goes into it. And most people, once they try it, they're like, oh, this is harder than it looks. You know? Um, but yeah, parents, it's like what you said, they're scared. And that I don't know. I think again, I just started doing it. I just jumped in, and I really think it's so important to have that like just learner's mind and like don't be scared to make a mistake. There's not like you're not gonna screw your kid up if you don't have the board placed right exactly. If you prompt them, the more important thing is to do it, and then get feedback from someone who can spot things so you don't want to get into bad habits or bad loops with your kid if at all possible. But what's worse, right? Like not doing it at all or doing it imperfectly. It's obviously better to do it imperfectly. And so, yeah, I'm with you on that. I do have thoughts too about, how often and, like all of us rah rah, like, you got to do this, you got to do this every day. And I'm in that mindset, but I also know that families have other children, they have jobs, and this too. We all know this. Like we have very full lives. And so I always try to give people a lot of grace. Like I get in stretches where we do it every day. And then life is crazy for whatever reason. I'm supporting my daughter going to college, or there's a health emergency with someone else in our family. Like we're always juggling different things. And I think I've really been thinking lately about myself learning to play guitar, which is a good example because guitar is a motor skill, any instrument, right? And I started teaching myself as an adult, which is not the ideal time to learn an instrument, right? But that doesn't mean it can't happen. And it has been just a very long journey for me. It's been like stop and start, stop and start. But I have like gotten better over the years and I enjoy playing it now. And it helps me when I see like, oh, I haven't done this with Carter in a few days or a few weeks even. And then you get back at it and you're like, oh, wow, you're better. I've seen it with my kids too, with other motor things, skating, ice skating, skiing. They haven't done them many times. And sometimes we have 2 years between, but because they're older and their bodies are more regulated and they're more in control, they've improved. So I just think it's so important for parents to always really, like you said, mindset is so important to embrace a positive mindset, to give yourself grace, to give your child grace, and just always commit to like, I'm not giving up on this no matter what. Like that's my mindset. I've told someone else this recently. I will do this till the day I die. Even if he never becomes open, this is the one method I have seen that actually will get him, barring him miraculously starting to speak, which happens very rarely with some kids, even when they're older. This is the method that's going to get him to communication and to get him to whatever his highest level of autonomy is. And so I'm like, that's how committed I feel. Now I know life can throw, I've seen some really hard family cases, like you've talked about, like where kids won't spell with their parents or where, there's just hard relationship things. So I know that it's like a little presumptuous of me to say, like, I will never give up on this. But I do think it's important for most of us to adopt that mentality. Like that's how committed to it we have to be. And our kids need to sense that too. Like we're never going to give up on them. And that means never giving up on them being able to communicate with us.
Does he spell with his dad?
Not yet. There's times when I know my husband would really love to. And like I said, it is mostly because we've been advised to like really focus on me spelling with him to get him in that groove. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with that so far.
Yeah, because a lot of kids will spell with the moms, but not with the dads. But you're not even really trying yet, so it's not like he's resisting, like I don't want to spell with dad, but some of them are.
No.
I'm going to ask you this question. If you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. I can delete it. But do you are you seeing any telepathy with him?
Um, Not really.
Do you feel that he can, okay, because some kids, I just saw this post this morning on a speller page, not a telepathy page, and she said, I feel like every time we're doing math, he is writing out the answers that are in my head.
Mhm.
And so when she gave him a question where she didn't know the answer. He didn't know the answer either. And
Okay.
I said, it's because it's telepathy because he's getting it out of your head. He's not doing the math on his own. He's doing it because he hears what's in your head. Are you seeing anything like that or no?
I will say, we joke about it all the time. So Carter knows I've listened to the telepathy tapes, and I am very open-hearted and minded to it. Like I don't, if that was his experience, I would 100% believe it. It's just because he can't communicate with me. And for me, I do have some reservations when I see a lot of families just like going so hard into this telepathy thing, and their child is like maybe like mine. Like it's like, I don't think we should put the cart before the horse. Like for me, I'm going to keep focusing on spelling every day. I'm going to stay so focused on that. And I also don't want him to feel any pressure one way or another. You know, like there has been a lot of talk that it seems like a lot of our kids are experiencing this. Some people think all of them do, but there are some voices that are saying, no, I don't experience that. And who knows, you know, I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, and they just don't want to say. But my point being is that I'm a little cautious about it. We joke about it because he knows prior knowledge questions all the time that I'm like, really? You know that? And so we'll joke. We'll be like, well, either he's super duper smart and he remembers this from some random place and time, which is possible. They do that. Their minds are traps. Once something's in there, it's there forever. Whereas I hear a paragraph and I've forgotten what the exact word was like 30 seconds later. I read to him and ask him the next day and he still knows. So he will know things. But then there's times when I'm like, you might be reading my mind because I don't know how you know that, you know, and he spells things perfectly. So I'm just very open to it. And I'm not one way or another on whether he's.
I also think some kids don't want to talk about it either until they feel that they can fully trust to let that information out. And then what about spelling? Did he seem to already know how to read when you started, or did you have to teach him how to read?
So
Because he was so young.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think he knew how to read for sure. And it wasn't until I started hearing all these other stories. There was a stage when he was 3 and 4, he would just stare at books all the time. I have pictures of him just looking at the books and didn't think much of it at the time. And so I like those other people that you've had on. I do believe that that's when he was teaching himself at those stages. And I wanted to find this book. I had this Disney book that was like a dictionary, which is very interesting because it was alphabetical, you know, it was like all the A words, then all the B words. He loved that book to the point of like, it was demolished. And it was like, we taped it together so many times, all the pages torn out. And I just find it fascinating that it was a dictionary and that it was like ABC. Like, I just think that's
because it was all lined up and all.
Yeah. And I thought I got to a point where I thought, oh, I should just throw this out and recycle it. This book's done. And I went to do it and I was like, I can't do it, Mike. I want to keep it. And he was like, okay, whatever, keep it. But I can't find it. So I'm like, did I throw it out? Did I keep it? But anyways,
one thing, or he hid it so that you wouldn't throw it out.
Yeah. One thing that is different for me personally is my older children. I kind of alluded to this idea that we unschooled. They both taught themselves to read also. I didn't do any reading lessons with them. I didn't directly teach them. And my middle son, who's 16 now, he actually learned much earlier than I expected him to, because I had read a lot of homeschool stories that boys learn later, this and that. And he learned, like, it was weird. It was like he was 7 and we were like, oh, you're reading. So I had no problem with this idea that Carter had taught himself. Like this was, again, not a hurdle for me at all. It was more just like, well, I don't know if he has. And then once we were spelling, I was like, oh yeah, he's spelling all these words. He must know how to read. So he spells incredible words. It's crazy.
So. Yeah, so all right, but he's not open yet.
No, he's not open yet.
Okay, so what is he doing then? Are you teaching him a lesson and then he answers the question?
We usually use lessons, like S2C type lessons where, and you know, many varied topics. You try to make it interesting for them. I have learned to do higher cognitive level because I find he's way more engaged. So like if I use, for example, I've been using ChatGPT to help me make lessons. I will say, instead of saying, make it for a 9-year-old boy, they'll use like these really short, like simple words. I say, make it college level or make it adult level.
Wow.
And they're way better for him. He's way more engaged. He can spell. If I read to him and spell like a hard word, whatever word you can think of, he can always spell them. Always. If I just spell it one time. It's so, yeah, it's very interesting.
So give us an example of what a lesson would be about.
Oh gosh. I mean, it could be anything. I've made lessons about like, I don't know, I think I did one on the history of basketball or real history. Like, we've done all sorts of lessons on holidays, people, like biographical, like science type. Really, it could be anything. And that's something I try to help people understand when I'm supporting them for homeschooling, is what we teach them is really not that important. It's more important that we're doing, like for me, I'm worried about him getting the motor skill of spelling. I'm not. And that's why my older children, again, have helped me, because I did not like, quote, teach them directly a lot of things. Like we led a very connected life, a very rich life of like going out in the world and doing things. And I trusted that they would get what they needed from life, like as they get older, as they mature. And so I trust the same thing with Carter. I really think the idea of kids need very specific things is bogus. And the more that we live in this world where all information is at our fingertips, the more bogus it is. Like, think about it. We can never know everything. It's just not possible. So it's more important that we know how to learn or how to find information. So I really just don't worry about what I'm teaching Carter. I want to teach him things that are in alignment with my values and my family's values. I want to teach him things that are interesting. So I will stick to topics that I think are interesting, or that I think he might think are interesting as a 9-year-old boy. And that's kind of what I use to guide myself.
Mm. Well, what about, so your oldest is in college, so you had to pass an SAT to get into college, right?
She took the ACT. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
she had to be proficient enough in math or whatever you need
yeah.
to.
Yeah, my children have largely been taught math by my mother. I'm very, very lucky that I was good at math. Don't get me wrong, but my mom was a math teacher. She was my math teacher in high school. I went to a very small public school. And so when they got to be teenagers, we were like, Grandma. So they Zoom with Grandma and they do math. And I'm very happy to like pass that. And she loves doing it. And it's a point of connection with their grandmother. So yes, she learned basic math. When my daughter was 17, she took classes at a community college, and it was the first time she was really taking more academic classes. Before that, she had done homeschool co-op type classes. They were, for younger kids. Like she had done a zoo class, she had done like cooking, but truly academic. She did English 1 and 2. She did a history and she did a biology. And for the first time, she thought, oh, Mom's right, I can succeed. She got all A's, like first time trying academic courses. And then last summer, we bought her all the ACT books like this. And the girl is so disciplined, and it's actually more anxiety that drives her. She studied on her own for, weeks and months. Would she just be with these thick books? I didn't have to nag her or anything. And she did very well. She took the ACT twice. Got into all 3 colleges she applied to. And so that was a story I had heard myself in homeschooling circles. Like, if your kid has that goal eventually, you'll be able to get them there. And so that always helped me not stress and worry about it before it was a necessity. And so when parents come to me now and their kids like 9, even up to like 13, and they're like, well, what about college? And I'm like, is your kid spelling yet? Like, why are you worrying about college? Like, we need to focus on what's the next step. Your kid can go to college anytime. They could go when they're 22. It doesn't have to be at 18. And so I just really try to focus parents on like, what's the next step? Because your kid might not want to go to college too.
Right.
There's a lot of spellers that are like, I don't need that piece of paper.
Mhm.
I want to advocate. I want to write a book. I want to, do this or that. And so I think it's so important, like you've talked about regulation, to lower our parents' stress levels, and so let's get rid of the things we shouldn't be stressing about now.
Yeah.
If college is a thing, you will get your kid there and you'll find the steps in the past.
There's just so much keeping up with the Joneses in America.
Mhm.
And, with your neurotypical kids. And then I feel like they stress themselves out 100 times more if their kids on the spectrum too, and they're still trying to fit those traditional goals. Well, they have to go to college, and well, maybe they might want to get married someday, and all these kind of I'm like, just stop it. Just stop it. Your kid is your kid. Stop comparing yourselves to everybody else.
Mhm.
What do they want to do?
Yep.
They might not want to go to college, like you said. Maybe they want to do something else. Just let them do whatever they want. I interviewed a woman who she was I think it's a foundation, or her business is called Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. And her two boys were on the spectrum, and they were bullied to the point where they wanted to unalive themselves.
Mhm.
And she took them home, and she homeschooled now. And they've accomplished so much now, writing books and like doing all kinds of things, I forget besides the writing books, but I mean, sometimes they want to make movies, or they want to do music, or, you have no idea. And until they become an open speller and can tell you what they really want, like you said, let's work on that first. Let's just take one step at a time, get them to the point where they can spell openly and communicate with you and get to know your kid and know
Yep.
what they want. So
Absolutely.
tell us about your group, the sign behind you, the homeschool your non-speller. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the community I run is actually called Non-Speakers Homeschool Support. And I shorten it to NHS, which is funny for some people. And I think it's in the UK. That's the National Health System or something. And they're like, no, not the NHS. I'm like, NHS for me is National Honor Society. That's what it was when I was growing up. So either way, it's a little ironic, which I think is funny. So non-speakers homeschool support. And the funny thing is, so I run this community with April Bowden, who was in the Spellers documentary. Her son Aiden they're the first ones on the screen, actually. So she has joined me in this project, and she helps me run the calls. We have monthly member calls. And we were just chatting recently, and I'm like, it's so funny because we don't talk about homeschooling a whole lot. Like, what we're really doing is supporting parents. And a lot of it is on this spelling journey. So you notice my sign, it says join the revolutions. I purposely put an S there because to me, the first revolution is the revolution of communication for our non-speakers. They're not nonverbal, right? That's like the first step. We stopped calling them nonverbal. We're calling them non-speakers. And now I see some people are like, there was that Tawny's kid. She was on.
Yeah, Josiah.
He doesn't want to be called non-speaker either, which I totally.
He doesn't want to be a non-anything.
Right.
He's a voice speaker. He said.
Yeah, it's kind of like unschooling people. People always have issues with words, and I am fine with that. I'm like, if you don't want to be called that, that's fine. But we also need words to communicate things, So, non-speakers is still.
Like, I just call them spellers.
Yeah, spellers.
Flat out, I just call them spellers.
I think
that's it. That's how they communicate.
One reason I didn't use spellers is because spellers, the method in the name of my community, is like I was avoiding like using their word,
Right.
But anyways, the first revolution is the revolution of communication, right? Because this is what's getting our kids to autonomy. This is what's getting them. It's getting parents to know their children. It's like, it's why we weep when we learn about this, because we're like, this is it. So we have, our letter boards. But because of this revolution, so many parents are realizing that our education systems are failing their children. As soon as they understand that their kid's in there and that they're so unbelievably intelligent, like, a lot of them, you were talking about that recently on one of your episodes, the, average intelligence versus, not average intelligence. Their brains definitely work differently than ours. And so many parents are bringing their kids home because they're like, especially the public school system, it's failing our children. So that's the second revolution. They're definitely intertwined. They're definitely parallel. But so like we talk a lot about, we've talked about parent trauma. We've talked about parent regulation a lot, because if parents aren't regulated, they can't support their child. And our children, the non-speakers, are telling parents, you have to take care of yourself. Well, guess what? Autism parents, parents of special needs kids, are notorious for not taking care of themselves. They've been neglecting themselves for years.
Right.
And so, like, a lot of the things we're doing in our community actually support all of these families that are on the spelling journey, whether they homeschool or not. But April and I are we're both very pro homeschooling. And we know that the homeschoolers, especially, like, they need that confidence, right? That they can do it. And so I don't foresee changing the name, but we always tell people, like, you can join our community even if you don't homeschool, and you will benefit. So I hope I'm like articulating or like explaining well what we're doing. Like, it really is monthly calls to support the parents, and the parents,
because Zoom call?
It's a Zoom. Yeah, it's a Zoom. And usually we encourage parents to either their children aren't there or they have headphones on, because we want parents to be able to speak freely, and like to not feel, I mean, we know telepathy is an issue.
I was going to say, if they're telepathic, they're going to hear it, but
there's still, I think even with that, you
can set some boundaries.
Yeah, there's boundaries, and there's being respectful, because we've heard the non-speakers or spellers say that they will respect boundaries, right? And they can control it a little bit. So there's still an element of like, let's again set those boundaries. So anyways, we support the parents on those calls. We've also added calls. Right now I'm doing them once a month for the children, or if they're not all children, a lot of them are adults, for the spellers, where we do group lessons and we play music and we dance, and they love them. Because it's just an opportunity especially for our littles, to see others doing this, to do it together. And then there's almost always a couple that are open on the call, which is so inspiring, both for our children that are being homeschooled and for the parents. And then we have guest speakers too. We're actually having Elizabeth Bonker on at the end of this month. It's September now. And
I'd love to know how you got her, but we'll talk off camera.
Okay. Yeah. So she's coming on, and we had Dana in the spring, we had Dawn Marie in the summer, and those recordings are all in our community. I'm just really excited because it has taken off not exactly the way envisioned, but I knew it would be magic. I knew if there were enough people that needed it, and it fills me up. Like, it keeps me, like, my vision for our community is this place that will fuel parents so they never give up. Like I was talking about, like, I want it to be the place. And it's like, it really is a revolution. Like, it's a revolution of mind, of like our mindset. And we're like, that has to happen inside us first before it will happen out in society. Right. And, again, it's too slow for most of us, the societal. And so we need this place where we recharge, where we inspire. In a lot of our daily lives, we don't feel like we're doing revolutionary work, right? Because these are micro steps, and we have to start where we are. Like, you saw, like, where Carter is, like, and you mentioned I'm so patient. He's been spelling on the boards for 2.5 years, and we're not open. I don't really get discouraged. And a lot of parents come to me and they are discouraged, when it's
when I said you're patient, it's because the way that you were chasing him around and he kept laughing. And it was like it was like he was turning the whole thing into a joke. And it's like, no, I'm not doing this. And let me see how much I can just drive her crazy and run around and laugh and whatever. And other parents would have gotten very frustrated, would have started yelling at him, like, just sit down already, or whatever. And you just kept going, and you just like, just stayed positive the whole time. And I was like, this woman is very, very patient. That she's
my older children trained me well. Again,
okay,
it's a third child thing, and I had, like I said, I had a very distinct parenting philosophy. Like, I truly believe our children, and this is not exactly true of apraxic children, by the way, like for neurotypical, I believe they will do things when they're ready. Apraxia makes it so that's not so. We do need to step in, and like, that's where I've learned to raise my expectations slowly and realistically. But I don't want to put a bar on Carter, like, I don't want to put a ceiling on him, because I see all these other kids. But like, there's like a coin. It's like a coin with seeing what other spellers are doing. I think some families may look at that and be inspired initially, but when they don't get there super fast, they may become discouraged, right? And start comparing, like you were talking about comparison.
Yes.
It's so important for us to only compare like to ourselves yesterday or to our child like last month, last year, to always be looking at those small wins. And you have to notice them. You have to like really, really be intentional about looking at your child's growth so that you're seeing it, because it's really easy to not notice it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And to just be like, oh, we're just stuck here. Everything's the same. It's never going to get better. Look at that kid, you know, because there's now spellers doing all sorts like rock climbing, surfing, you know, you name it, marathons, writing books, all these things that are amazing.
Yeah.
But it could be real easy for a lot of families to be like, well, my kid will never do that. And it's like, no, like you need to look at your child and see where are they growing and support that and believe that it's possible. Maybe not exactly what that other family's doing, but something amazing is possible for your child. And like that, so that's what I want to create. And I'm like, I am creating it for myself just as much as I am other families, because that's how I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the vision for Carter, because I don't know where he's going to go. I do know that I need to keep improving myself. I need to keep pushing him a little bit more, because my story is a little bit different than most people's. We didn't push him a lot when he was young, but now I know, because of apraxia, because of people like Dana Johnson, I know how I can support his body, and I know the way forward. And so I have to do it. And the doing it part is hard. It's daily. It's a daily grind. It's not always.
That's why a lot of parents don't want to homeschool, because it's too much to do. It's too much to do all day, every day. It's a lot of work, and they don't want to do it.
Again, that's where I come in. Like, I can tell you it's not as much work as they think it is. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can commit to a half an hour of spelling in the morning, and then maybe doing like one motor activity in the evening, and during the day, you're doing your work, you're doing your chores, you're making food. And if you can have your child help you, fine. It's not as much as people think it is. And the like, I'm just going to call it abuse at public schools. What they're receiving at schools is so negative. Most of them, there are exceptions, that them being home with you is a way better deal for them. And you're avoiding trauma. You're avoiding, you know, some of these families will tell you they have to undo years and years of trauma. Mm-hmm. And that's not an easy task.
Right.
Like, so,
I know. Yeah, that's we did an episode on that. The ABA done incorrectly, that has, you know, put her son through trauma. She's still posting about it. She's all stressed out about it because he's still dealing with the trauma of it. Just so people understand what you're talking about. All right. So if somebody wants to join your group, do you have a Facebook page for it? Or
so my Susan Damaske May personal profile is now a professional dashboard, and I'm using it exclusively to post all this stuff. Okay. Facebook, it's just not, I've done business pages, and I did start one, and it's just not worth it. You don't reach people. Mm-hmm. So find me on Facebook through Susan May, or Susan, my maiden name is Damaske. I have spell
it out for the audio. It's Susan, Damaske.
Yes.
Correct.
Perfect.
Good.
Perfect.
And May, the last name is May, like the month of May.
Yeah, you might find it with just Susan May, but the webpage people should go to for all the information about our community is nonspeakershomeschoolsupport.com. Exactly.
Okay. So you do have a website.
I do have a website. They can join right there. They can join right now.
And then they would get on the Zoom call once a month.
Yep. And we have a private Facebook group. That's where like we come together between calls. And like I said, it's private. So no posts are able to be accessed except for members. That's where all of our call replays are. And so they can watch any of our member calls. We've been up and running now for close to 18 months. I think it's probably 16 or 17 months now. So there's a whole library of calls, and we have 4 guest speaker calls all there too.
So if they want to access that, they'd have to go to you first. Can they go, because I have a private page as well, and they can apply to be a part of that page, but they have to answer certain questions first or to get admitted.
So that Facebook page is for members only. So they have to join. It's a membership community, and it's paid. Okay. So it's a monthly subscription or yearly. There are benefits if people pay yearly. They get 2 months free, and they get a coaching call with me.
Okay. And so they would go to the website first?
Yeah, they would go to the website, and they can join from there. And then it's all automated. Like, they'll get an email, and it will take them to the Facebook page, and then I would approve them in. And so everything is housed there. Yeah.
Okay.
And I send out regular emails too, because, our family's lives are, I think one thing people just appreciate is that I'm organizing things, like people, they just want someplace to show up, right? So that they can show up consistently. And that's something April and I have been good about. We haven't missed a single month. Like, we have a call every month. They can count on it. If they can't come live, it's recorded. They can watch the replay. I know a lot of members take advantage of the replays, and it's just a safe place. Like, these families need a place where other people understand them and they know what they're going through. I learned as much from my members as like they learn from me or from April, because their experience is different than mine. And they, every month, every call, there's some little tip. I'm like, oh, I got to try that with Carter. It's really awesome. It's really like, it's that whole idea of like, when we come together, we're better, we're bigger, than just individual. So I love it.
Okay. All right. That's great. All right. Thanks, Susan, for being here today. I learned a lot of new things from you today. So thank you for taking the time to be here to speak to our viewers.
Thanks, Cindy. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. To learn more about our children's book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, or to learn more about what we do at Robbie's World Foundation, simply visit our website at robbiesworldbook.com.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.